Let me ask you something. If $10 million landed in your bank account tomorrow, what car would you buy? A Ferrari? A Lamborghini? Maybe a Bugatti? That's what most people imagine because we've been taught that real success has to be loud. But here's the strange part. The people who actually have that kind of money often think completely differently. Walk through the world's wealthiest neighborhoods, and you'll notice many billionaires quietly ignore the supercars everyone else dreams about. Not because they can't afford them, but because attention is no longer the goal. They value privacy, rarity, and true exclusivity over flashy badges. So why do the ultra-rich avoid the cars most people see as the ultimate status symbol? The answer reveals a side of wealth almost nobody talks about. You know what's funny? The moment someone gets rich, everyone expects them to buy the loudest car on the road. It's almost like we've been programmed to believe success has to make noise. But spend enough time around people with serious money, and you'll notice something doesn't add up. The people trying hardest to look rich are usually the ones with the smallest fortunes. The people with the biggest fortunes? Half the time, you drive right past them without even noticing. So, what changes? See, when most people think about buying a car, they ask one question. What will people think when they see me driving it? It's a completely normal thought. Whether we admit it or not, everyone likes a little attention. But once someone reaches a certain level of wealth, that question quietly disappears. They stop asking, "What does this car say about me?" and start asking, "What does this car do for me?" That tiny shift changes everything. Think about it for a second. Imagine you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You already own homes around the world. You fly privately. You can buy almost anything without checking the price tag. At that point, is anyone really going to be impressed because you showed up in another red Ferrari? Probably not. In fact, there's a good chance the only people staring are tourists holding up their phones. And that's exactly why many ultra-rich buyers lose interest in ordinary supercars surprisingly fast. It's not because those cars are bad. Some of them are engineering masterpieces. The problem is, they're everywhere. Well, everywhere that wealthy people spend their time. Walk through places like Monaco, Beverly Hills, or certain parts of Dubai and you'll understand what I mean. A Lamborghini isn't a once-in-a-lifetime sight anymore. Neither is a Ferrari. Even a McLaren barely turns heads in some neighborhoods. When everyone around you owns the same dream car, it stops feeling special. It's like wearing the exact same designer outfit as everyone else at a private event. Expensive? Sure. Exclusive? Not anymore. And exclusivity is something money can never stop chasing. Here's where it gets really interesting. Most people think rarity comes from price. The ultra-rich know that's not always true. A car can cost $3 million, but if thousands of people own one, it's no longer rare. On the other hand, a vehicle built in tiny numbers, offered only to a handful of carefully selected clients, suddenly becomes something completely different. Now you're no longer buying transportation. You're buying access to a club most people don't even know exists. That's a completely different game. This is why you'll often hear stories about manufacturers refusing to sell certain cars to anyone with enough money. Sounds backwards, doesn't it? You'd think showing up with a blank check would be enough. It isn't. Some of the world's most exclusive brands don't just ask if you can afford the car. They want to know who you are, what you've owned before, whether you've supported the brand for years, and sometimes even what you plan to do with the car after buying it. Imagine walking into a store ready to spend millions, only to be told, "Sorry, you're not on the list." For most people, that sounds ridiculous. For the ultra-rich, that rejection actually makes the car even more desirable, because the moment something can't simply be bought, it becomes a symbol of something money alone can't guarantee. Density. Not the kind you post on social media, the kind recognized only by people who already live in that world. And that's another mistake most of us make. We assume wealthy people buy expensive cars to impress everyone else. In reality, they're usually speaking to a much smaller audience. Sometimes it's fellow collectors. Sometimes it's industry insiders. Sometimes it's people who notice details nobody else would ever catch. A limited production badge, a one-off paint color, a custom interior stitched by hand. To most people, those details mean absolutely nothing. To someone inside that circle, they tell an entire story. And believe it or not, that's often worth far more than another 1,000 horsepower. Because once you've reached a point where anyone can buy speed, speed stops being the thing that matters. That's when the definition of luxury quietly changes, and the cars that seem ordinary to everyone else suddenly become the most valuable ones in the room. That change in mindset is exactly why some of the world's wealthiest garages don't look the way you'd expect. Instead of being filled with every famous supercar on Instagram, they're often built around cars that tell a story. And that's the part most people never see. Think about it. If you had unlimited money, would you rather own the same Lamborghini thousands of other millionaires already have, or the only example in the world built to your exact specifications? For someone chasing attention, the answer is obvious. For someone who's already seen enough attention to last a lifetime, the answer changes completely. That's why personalization becomes such a big deal at the highest level of wealth. Some buyers spend months choosing tiny details most people would never even notice. A unique paint color inspired by a childhood memory. Leather sourced from a specific region. Interior stitching designed around a family crest. These aren't upgrades to impress strangers. They're ways of making sure the car can never truly be copied. And that's the difference. Ordinary buyers want a rare car. The ultra-rich want a car that becomes impossible to replace. But here's something even more surprising. Many billionaires aren't trying to build the biggest collection. They're trying to build the right collection. That means saying no far more often than saying yes. Just because a new supercar launches doesn't mean they rush to order one. In fact, some intentionally skip cars everyone else is chasing because they know hype fades. Trends come and go. Headlines disappear. But true automotive icons have a habit of becoming more desirable with time. It's the same reason serious art collectors don't buy every painting they see. They wait. They study. They understand the story behind what they're buying. For them, the car isn't just transportation. It's history on four wheels. It's craftsmanship. It's engineering that may never be repeated. And sometimes, it's an investment hiding in plain sight. That doesn't mean every expensive car makes money. Far from it. Plenty of exotic cars lose value the moment they leave the dealership. The people at the top understand that better than anyone. That's why they focus less on what the internet is excited about today, and more on what enthusiasts will still be talking about 20 years from now. It's patience instead of impulse, vision instead of excitement. And maybe that's the biggest lesson hidden behind all of this. The ultra-rich don't make different decisions because they have more money. They make different decisions because they think differently. While most people ask, how can I impress everyone? They ask, will this still matter 10 years from now? That single question changes everything. Not just when buying cars, but in business, investing, and life itself. So the next time you see someone climb out of a quiet luxury sedan, an understated SUV, or a car you've never even heard of, don't assume they've settled for less. There's a good chance you're looking at someone who no longer needs their wealth to introduce them. Because real luxury has a funny way of becoming quieter the more of it you have. And maybe that's the biggest surprise of all. If this video changed the way you think about supercars, don't stop here. There are countless hidden rules the ultra-rich follow when it comes to cars. Rules that almost nobody talks about. Subscribe because in the next video, we're pulling back the curtain on another side of the automotive world that most people will never get to see. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.